Vito Chirco here, sitting down with you all to introduce a special segment that I had the chance to record recently with Mr. Ted Lindsay, NHL Hall of Famer, and most notably, Red Wings legend, touching on a variety of topics, including his playing days with the Wings, his broadcasting career with NBC, his pushing for a union, a players' union in the NHL, as well as his foundation, the Ted Lindsay Foundation, which is aimed at a cure for autism. So please enjoy this following interview produced by my friend and my partner in crime, Mr. Brett Karwowicz. Here it is. Good.
I'm a Canadian, was a Canadian, I should say.
You were a Canadian?
I was a Canadian.
What do you mean by that?
I was born in Canada.
But you're not Canadian. Right now, you're saying?
When I came to Detroit to play hockey in 1944, long before you were born.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit ago. Not that long
So
ago.
then after I was here for about 6-7 years and was lucky enough to play for the Red Wings, I said, okay, well, I'm not going back to Canada. I was in business with Marty Pavlich, my teammate.
Huh.
So I might as well become an American.
You can start recording actually.
Oh, I
We can
bet.
just go.
I bet.
Oh, you have been cool. Okay.
I got you, Vito.
So coming from Canada to here, how big of a difference was that for you, by the way, Mr.
No
Lindsay,
difference.
when you first made the
No
transition?
difference.
No difference at all. Why is that?
Why? Because people live in Canada, they get up in the morning, they eat breakfast, and they go to work, and
We do the same
that's what
thing
they do
here,
in
right?
Canada.
Yeah.
So, and I played hockey, and I loved hockey, so it didn't matter. As long as there was ice.
You would play.
Yeah.
And now you seem like a nice guy, so why did you get the nickname of Terrible Ted? Tell me about that, Mr. Lindsay. How did that originate?
It was we played each other 14 times a year back in those days.
Less teams.
So we were playing in the 16 league.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in Toronto, and some Toronto newspaper guy, I must have had a bad night with the referees or something. So in the paper they put Terrible Ted Lindsay.
And they ran with it.
And they kept it up.
What do you think of it, though? You like it?
Yeah, it's fine.
Fine with you, yeah?
Don't bother me.
You were quite the aggressor, right?
I was there for one reason, to win.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever I've been going through you, over you, under you, whatever.
And how was playing with Gordie Howe and Sid Abel on that production line? Those guys really helped you out with winning too. I know that, to a large degree.
See, I always say, you said, how was it playing with Gordie Howe? And I always say, Gordie Howe played with me. You know
What are you trying to say? Yeah, what are you trying to say?
Well, I came here in 1944.
Mm-hmm.
He came in 1946.
Okay.
So he joined me. So I was here. So he came to play with me.
Very nice. And you hoisted the cup with Gordie 4 times in your career.
Yeah,
And then
we didn't have a stupid manager like Jack Adams. Montreal won the Stanley Cup 5 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
1955, when we won the last Stanley Cup in my era. Montreal, Adams, in those days he had 18 players on a team. He didn't have 25. He had 5 defensemen, 3 lines, 2 extra players. Could be 2 defensemen, 2 forwards, or 1 and 1. So.
Did you like playing for him though?
Adams traded, no.
No,
I
not at all?
playing hockey. I wasn't playing hockey for Jack Adams. I was playing hockey for the Red Wings and the rest of my teammates.
We're live right now.
Are we?
It's rolling too. Is this fine?
I didn't
You're good with
realize
this?
it. That's
yeah,
fine.
it's rolling.
Fine
So
by me.
okay, cool. Now Jack Adams kind of had a falling out with you then towards the end as well, with you trying to form that players union, right? And you wanted to get more rights, more compensation for the players to allow the guys, right, to seek employment with other teams as well, not to be owned.
No, you're going too fast, sir.
No?
No. We as players back in those days, the owners met 5 or 6 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
The hockey players never met because we never spoke to each other.
There was nothing.
There was.
Yeah.
I'll give you an illustration. If we were in Toronto and we take the streetcar up and get Carleton Street, get off at Carleton and Yonge, and Howe and I would be walking over to Maple Leaf Gardens. If a Toronto player come out of Maple Leaf Gardens and we're on Carleton Street, either he'd cross the street or we'd cross the street because we didn't speak to each other. And It was a wonderful way to play hockey. Coach never had to get you up. You were ready to go.
You're saying that the players are different now then, huh? In that regard?
Well,
You
they
trying to
all,
say
they
that
all
a
got
little
the
bit?
same. They all have the same lawyers. Not every one of them, but most of them have the same agents, and most of the agents are lawyers. And that's fine and dandy. They're making good money.
But you didn't need that, you're saying, for yourself. You were able to do everything by yourself without any help, right? Without the agent.
If I didn't know how good I was, how do I know how much I'm worth? You see, so. And if you don't know how good you are,
How do you
you
know
have
what
to
you're
have,
worth, right?
have an agent to tell the management how good you are to play for him, for the team.
Playing for the Wings from 1944 to 1960 in your first stint with the Wings. What was that like playing for the same team all that time?
Great. It was wonderful. But back in those days, you were raised in a farm system. Originally, Hamilton was the Red Wings farm club. Then they went and moved to Windsor. And the Windsor's, what do they call them? Windsor, no, it wasn't Bulldogs. Windsor, I guess Red Wings. And that's where the kids were.
Started off, yeah.
That's where Glen Hall, School, guys like that all played, came from the Red Wings or the junior team to the Red Wings. Toronto Maple Leafs was the Toronto Marlboros. They played in Maple Leaf Gardens. So they grew up with the Maple Leaf on their chest. So there was a loyalty.
Yeah.
There was a loyalty.
Different kind of loyalty. There's
Yes.
not that anymore.
No.
It seems like in professional sports as
No,
a whole,
because
too.
now you have a draft. So
Uh-huh.
there's no draft back then. In my case, we were playing in Hamilton one night. I was at St. Mike's playing junior in Toronto. And after the game in Hamilton, I got my bag over my shoulder, coming out underneath the seats, and a man popped out of with my bag on me. So this white-haired gentleman says, "Are you Ted Lindsay?" And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "I'm Carson Cooper, chief scout of the Detroit Red Wings. Ever think about playing pro?"
What did you say?
He said the right words, playing pro, playing hockey.
You wanted that, huh?
So he didn't know, but I was ready. But anyways, he said, "Well, I'm chief scout," and he says, and there was only 6 teams now, but they didn't have a draft. In those days, they had a negotiation list, and they had you were allowed 25 names. In other words, the Red Wings were allowed 25 names, and that way they could bury 25 bodies. And if the kid wasn't good to make the Red Wings, he would maybe get stuck in, well, I think Indianapolis was our farm club at that time in the American League, which Grand Rapids is right now. So he says, "I'll have to check with the National Hockey League tomorrow. If your name isn't on the other 5 teams' league, base 25 names, he said, I'm going to put you on Detroit's list." He said, "Oh, wonderful," because at that time they had 2 players, Jack Stewart and Jimmy Orlando. They were tough, competitive, not dirty, competitive defensemen. And in Kirkland Lake, where I lived, 600 miles north of Windsor, on a clear, cold night, our normal temperature was 15 below. No wind chills, that was the temperature.
Really cool,
You
huh?
could get, and WJR used to do Red Wing hockey games way back in the olden days. And on a clear, cold night in Kirkland Lake, I could get Red Wing games. And Jack Stewart and Jimmy Orlando, as they said, that's why I became a Red Wing fan. And so when this man mentioned the Red Wings and going to check the roster to see if my name was on any of the other 5 teams, I was hoping it wasn't. And it wasn't.
So it worked out
I ended up
perfectly
going
for
to
you
Detroit,
then. Then you played all those seasons with the Wings, and then you were traded to the Blackhawks. What was that like for you?
Well, it was, as much as being traded, it was a decision. Adams was, you had mentioned earlier about the Players Association Union It was association, because
At that point, yeah.
all the kids were from small communities in Canada. Union was a bad word. Association. So Doug Harvey and I were on the pension board for the National Hockey League, such as our pension was. But that was started by Sid Abel and Silaps, Toronto, Glenn Harmon, Montreal, back in the late 30s and early 40s, such as our pension was. But at least those guys started something. When they came in the league, there was nothing. And so they were good enough to take this on and start something. And I just believe very strongly that we should be able to sit down and discuss things. So Doug Harvey and I ended up being on the pension board. And we thought, I thought, one night we're having a meeting, and because as I said earlier, we don't talk to each other. So how do you form an association? Well, Doug and I had the meetings for the Players Association, or the pension. And he thought it was a good idea. And we went that way, and that was the start of it. I do the same thing today. It was something that was needed. Fellas should be able to have an opinion. And so we did it. Got traded to Chicago.
And then Harvey was traded too.
Who?
Harvey was traded too.
Not for another 4 or 5 years.
But because of that, stemming from
Montreal
yeah.
Canadiens, he's the greatest defenseman ever to play, even over Orr.
Wow.
But the difference between Orr and Harvey, Orr was a better skater.
Okay.
But when you look at Montreal Canadiens, and they have Rocket Richard, Jean Beliveau, Toe Blake, Beliveau, Geoffrion, Doug Harvey controlled that power play. He was like a puppeteer. He controlled. When they got on the ice, those guys never moved until he made them move. That's how good he was. Orr didn't have those kind of. He had Phil Esposito.
Okay.
You know, he had some good players, but not as many as Harvey had. Montreal.
Who was the greatest player that you played with in your career?
Howe was the greatest player ever to play.
Okay. Better than you, yourself, Mr. Lindsay.
Oh yeah.
You can say that.
Oh yes, I say that.
Uh-huh.
I was just lucky to play the game, and I had good teammates.
And then you played under Sid Abel too, at the end of your career when you came back to play for the Wings.
Well, yeah,
what was that like?
I retired from Chicago. I wasn't through, but Marty Pavlich and I were in business, in the automotive business. And when I went to Chicago, we had just started our business. Marty had just retired, and our business wasn't wealthy enough to support the both of us, even though we were only making $9,000 a year playing hockey. Our business still couldn't, but that's the way we lived, on $9,000 a year. But when I went going to Chicago, because I couldn't afford $18,000 for the tubes, you see. So after I was there for 3 years, I'd come back every summer and I'd work the business and go back, and I was existing. I was still a Red Wing. Had it tattooed here, tattooed
You
here.
wanted to be a Red Wing.
Tattooed back there.
You were loyal.
Well,
as much as you possibly could.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Loyalty goes to where you are. And, But I played in Chicago, but I didn't play as well as I should have, because I was still a Red Wing.
At heart.
I still played the best I thought I could, you know. But it all worked out. I finally quit, come home.
Then you came back. You came out of retirement to play for Sid Abel
I
and the
was
Wings. That last
retired for
season.
4 years.
Yeah.
And I went to see Sid, and I said, I had done some work for NBC on hockey.
Calling games, right?
Afternoon games.
With Tim Ryan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the interviews between periods. It'll come to me in a second. It's trouble with getting old, you see.
You're fine. It's understandable. Yeah. No problem.
So anyway, I finally went, I did the work for NBC, and
That wasn't good enough though for you?
well,
You
no,
still had an itch for playing hockey
I
at
went
that
to
time?
Sid. I said, Sid, I want to be identified as a Red Wing,
Uh-huh.
not as a Blackhawk. And I said, I'd like to come back, and I don't want to do hockey on radio because I want to run my business with Marty. So in hockey, they only did 7 or 8 games, 10 games for television, because television was just starting.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, well, why don't you come back and play? I laughed, looked at him, I laughed. He says, no, he says, I think you can help you. You can help us.
And you did.
Well,
A regular season
I
championship.
talked to my wife, she didn't want me to do it.
Uh-huh.
I talked to Marty, my partner, he didn't want me to do it. But I loved my game. So I said to Sid, I said, I'll go to training camp. And that year they were training in Detroit. And as long as I can play on the first shift for the Red Wings in training camp, they went on the ice at 8 o'clock. That way I could get off the ice at 9:30, get showered and dressed, go to lunch with a customer, take my tired body home to get ready for the next day for training camp.
So doing both at the same time.
Yeah.
Your business at the same time as this is
So
going on.
Sid says, we can do that. So I said, okay. Well, nobody knew anything about it, me playing for the Red Wings that year. The day before the season opened, Sid went to the press club. I still hadn't signed anything. He says, got a young rookie that we're going to use this season, and his name is Ted Lindsay. And that was the first time anybody knew.
Wow.
But I'd been working out with the Red Wings for a month because they worked at the Olympia practicing. But I always kept myself in shape, so everybody thought, nobody made anything of it. And so Clarence Campbell made a statement. He's was the president of the league at that time. After 2 weeks after the season opened, he made it national television and newspapers. When a 39-year-old man thinks he can play in the fastest game in the world, he'll learn his lesson.
Did you learn your lesson? Or no, the opposite,
Well,
right? Occurred a little bit at least?
A month to 6 weeks later, because after we started the season, I was performing pretty good for an old guy. So Clarence Campbell wrote another article, because after we played, as I said, we played 14 times. After we went around the league once, I went around the league twice, I was wondering who's any better than we are. So I got the guys starting to think that we're better. We're better. We're not, because the league experts, the newspaper guys, radio guys, they picked us for 5th or 6th in the 16 league. Nobody had too much faith in us. But after we went around the league twice, I thought, who's any better than we are? Long story short, we played Montreal home and home, the last 2 games of the season, for first place in the league. We beat them in Montreal. We came to Detroit and we beat them Sunday night for the league championship.
You clinched it at the Olympia.
Yeah.
How was it playing, by the way, at the Olympia, known as the Red Barn? How was that?
Great building.
Yeah?
They had the greatest ice in the league. And I've always felt very strongly, Toronto used to have lousy ice. When they used to come in here and play in our rink, it was like giving them a downhill slope, because the ice was so good compared to what Maple Leaf Gardens is and was, that these guys were faster than normally they were. So it was tougher for us to play. But long story, I mention Clarence Campbell came out about 2 months after the season started and said I was wrong. Ted Lindsay proved me wrong, and he proved himself to be a tremendous athlete. So he forgave me, or he apologized to the country. And the guy that I was trying to think of earlier was Brian McFarland, was with me on NBC Hockey.
Okay.
Yeah, we still see each other when we go to Florida. He has a place in Florida, goes there for about 8 months of the year. And so...
But you came out of retirement and proved all the doubters wrong, really, by coming back and doing what you did at 39
yeah, and
years
the thing was, we played Chicago in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And we were in the 7th game at Olympia because we won the league championship.
Mm-hmm. At home ice then, yeah.
Home ice.
Yeah.
And Toronto or Montreal, Chicago were ahead 2-0 in the 7th game at Olympia. And they game is halfway over. They never got past center ice. We were going to beat them. Long story short, they ended up, Eric Nestorenko should have gotten a penalty, which he did not get. But then we got a penalty right after that. This is after maybe 20, almost 20 minutes of the period. We're into the last period. 2-0. We get the penalty. They got Hull and Makita on the power play. They get 1 goal, and that picked them up. They beat us.
But you thought you guys had it at home in Game 7,
Well,
right?
we should have. We don't get the penalty.
Uh-huh.
And that stupid Glenn School referee.
Blaming it on the referees, really?
Well, it was the truth.
Yeah.
He was like they all are. They're all blind and stupid.
Still to this day, huh? Same thing, huh?
Same.
All the refs.
Have you watched any of the playoffs?
I have a little bit. I watched last night.
Bad
Game
referee.
1.
Bad referee.
Yeah? All around, huh?
They're making bad calls. Really bad calls. Referees get to the point they think they're the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's dangerous when they think they're the game.
Not good for the game
No,
at
not
that
good
point,
for the
right?
Not good for the team, as they say. Montreal beat Chicago 4 straight because they beat
To win the
us
Stanley Cup.
to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
But if we'd have they had not given us that penalty where they got,
You guys could have beaten the Canadians, you're
we'd
saying?
have beat
in the
the
Stanley Cup
Canadians.
Finals?
We'd have beat the Canadians.
Wow. Very bold.
Yeah.
But you're always kind of bold, right? A little bit at least.
What do you mean bold?
Bold.
Truthful.
Truthful. Okay, so more of
Not
that than bold.
Truthful.
Okay, just truthful.
Yeah.
Always truthful. Mr. Ted Lindsay, and really
Truthful.
quick.
Truthful Ted.
Truthful Ted, I
Not
guess. There we
terrible
go.
Ted.
There's a moniker. No terrible Ted, truthful Ted. There we go. Now we got it here. Really quick. You won it 4 Stanley Cups, an 8-time first-team All-Star. So what's your legacy as a Red Wing? And a Hall of Famer, obviously, at the same time. What's your legacy as a player in the league and as a Detroit Red Wing, in your
A
opinion?
legacy? I don't have a legacy.
No lasting legacy?
I just played the greatest game in the world. I played with some of the greatest hockey players in the world, which Howe is one of those.
How about Sid Abel, by the
And
way? Among the greats.
When Sid came back from the Second World War, he became Gordy's and my father image. Because we were our first time away from home.
Hmm.
My mother's apron strings and all those wonderful things, you know. But he was our father image. And I wish he would have been 5 years younger. Because,
To play longer with you guys.
yeah,
Hmm.
we set some good records as the production line. But we would have kept Sid in the league for another 5 years at least.
Do you like that name, by the way, for the line that you guys are on with Howe
Production?
and Sid Abel? Yeah. Is that a good name for it, you think?
Production name, yeah, well, we were scoring goals.
And that's production, right?
And we happened to be in the automotive capital of the world, making cars.
Okay.
So production
Makes
lines.
sense, automobiles,
So that's where it
yeah.
all came from.
Very
See?
good.
See, your viewers
Learning
will be able
stuff.
to understand that now.
I know, it's very fitting then. The automobiles, the production,
Right.
offensive scoring of goals left and right with your line, and it makes sense then. Very good.
Left winger and right winger too.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, with you and Hal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Now, really quick, talk about your foundation, the Ted Lindsay Foundation, and what you do for that.
Well, we raise money for foundation or for autism research.
Okay?
We've been involved with a University of Washington in Washington State for 4 years. We've given well over $1.5 million there for research. Now, research is important because research discovers what is a mystery. And what causes the epidemic of autism in Europe, Canada, and the United States? It's an epidemic. And
now, why autism, by the way, for this foundation of yours?
well, I was on the stretching table here where we're doing this interview.
Okay.
One of the men who owns this, John Czernecki, he's stretching me one day, and he mentioned his son Dominic, who had autism. And I'd never heard the word before. So I went home that night and got the dictionary out and looked up autism. Come back in the next time, and he's stretching me, and I said, "What can we do for Dominic?" He said, "We can raise money." And how do old hockey players raise money? They have golf outings. And this year will be our 14th year of fundraising. And the greatest people in the world to me are the Red Wing hockey players.
They come out for the golf outing then, right? To help you guys
Mike
out.
Babcock is an absolute gem. Everybody in this world should be like Mike Babcock. And there wouldn't be any problems in the world.
Is he a great coach too, by the way? Good
Yes,
enough
he
to
is.
keep the team winning going forward?
Yes,
Yeah?
I hope he stays here forever.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for all your time today, Mr. Lindsay. I
Well,
appreciate it.
My pleasure. I hope that you get instead of getting a black mark in your class, that you'll get a good mark.
I think so. I think so, sir. Thank you very much.
It's a real pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Vito Chirco joining you here to discuss a few segments that I've recorded recently. The first one being with Mr. Ben Nicholson-Smith, formerly of MLB Trade Rumors, and also now of Sportsnet.ca in Canada, covering the Toronto Blue Jays. And we touched on, first off, Jose Fernandez and the Tommy John surgery that will have him now out for the rest of the season, and also the prevalence of the injury among these young, hard-throwing arms and why it has been so prevalent. We touched on that, and he gave me his insight on that, as well as some MLB trade news and notes regarding big names that possibly could be available at the trade deadline coming up on July 31st among starting pitchers in baseball. Jeff Samardzija and Cliff Lee were two of the names that were thrown out there. So tune into that one. And also after that, I had the chance to record another one with my brother Dominic Chirco regarding wins above replacement in Major League Baseball, and specifically two names in Xander Bogaerts of the Boston Red Sox and also Carlos Gomez of the Milwaukee Brewers. And we touched on how they're so impactful and extremely vital to the success of their respective ball clubs. So, without further ado, here now are the two segments. Enjoy. Ben Nicholson-Smith of Sportsnet.ca and USA Today Sports. Ben, what's going on today?
Not a whole lot. Just ready to talk some baseball. How are you doing?
Very good, and let's dive right into it in the Tommy John epidemic that has affected so many young, hard-throwing starting arms in today's game, such as Chris Medlin, Brandon Beachy of the Atlanta Braves, Jared Parker of the Oakland Athletics, Ivan Nova of the New York Yankees, and hard-throwing relief pitcher of the Detroit Tigers, and Bruce Rondon. And now the biggest fish of them all to fall victim to the Tommy John surgery epidemic has been Jose Fernandez of the Miami Marlins. No pun intended with the fish terminology there that I used to refer to him, as he's 4-2 right now, but 2.44 ERA and 8 starts this season thus far for the fish. And now out for this season with Tommy John. How do they go about correcting this issue in Major League Baseball? And what has to be done or can be done, you think, to at least come close to correcting the issue, Ben?
It's really tough. It really is, because you look around and there are so many pitchers getting injured, like you mentioned, and I don't think there is an easy fix. You look at young pitchers coming up, throwing a lot through the amateur ranks, and maybe that's something you can cut down on to some extent, but ultimately these guys are throwing 95, 97 miles an hour. That takes a toll on your elbow ligament, and no matter how much training you do and how much preparation you do, there aren't obvious ways to strengthen that ligament. So pitchers are at the mercy of their own bodies, and as we're finding out this year and as we've seen in past years, it has a breaking point, and that's a breaking point that can be very costly for teams trying to make some noise in the pennant race.
And now the Marlins, are they done in the National League East competitively speaking? Because right now they're in the middle of the race in the NL East, but can they keep it up without Fernandez at the top of their rotation? I don't believe so, Ben. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that they're going to have a lot of trouble maintaining this current level of play without Fernandez. I mean, he was such a key for them, and I would have even said if he had stayed healthy, they wouldn't have been able to contend all season long, because for me, the Braves and Nationals have more depth and more talent than the Marlins do. So for them, 2015 is going to be a big year if they can build on what they've done so far this year, maybe add to their core of position players to join Stanton and Yelich and really get some offense to go along with that promising group of arms.
Now, can Fernandez and Stanton, though, be kept long-term in Miami with their low payroll, low budget? Can it happen, you think, though, to allow the Marlins to keep these guys long-term that they want to build around, obviously, for the future, as you know?
Yeah, I think that it's going to be difficult. Could they keep them? Yeah, I think they could. Miami's a big market. There's a lot of revenue sharing in baseball right now. They have a brand new ballpark that was publicly funded, so I think they could. Are they going to expand the budget to the point where that makes sense? There's no indication that that's going to happen. I mean, it seems as though, based on recent history, that the Marlins are going to be a small market team in terms of what they spend, and if that's the case, then keeping a guy like Stanton or Fernandez, that's going to be really tough to do.
Now, back to the Tommy John surgery issue, and why do you believe, Ben, that it's been so prevalent this season with young arms, especially, in starting rotations?
Well, I think that's a good question and a good observation, and we have a couple guys even coming into the draft this year, Jeff Hoffman and Eric Fetty, who are also battling arm injuries, and so it definitely does appear to be more concentrated with the younger guys. Now, I don't know if that's a conditioning thing, or I think part of it, too, comes down to diagnosis in this day and age, where we have better care, better doctors looking at these arms and realizing that these tears exist, whereas in the past, 50 years ago, say, maybe these guys would have come down with the same ligament tear and then either pitched with reduced effectiveness or left the game entirely.
With all these injuries to starting pitchers in Major League Baseball this season, a lot of these teams want to go out and get new arms for the rotation to upgrade their rotations. So what are some of the possibilities out there right now? Who are the big names that could be acquired at the trade deadline this season among starting pitchers, Ben?
Yeah, I think it's going to start with Jeff Samardzija as that big name, just because the Cubs are not going to be a contender. We have seen Samardzija get off to another good start, and we know that the Cubs have entertained offers for him in the past. I think you combine that, and Samardzija to me stands as a guy who will probably be in all kinds of rumors this summer. Now, whether that leads to a deal, it's tough to say, but I think he'll be up there. We could see Cliff Lee potentially being involved in trade talks as well, because the Phillies have had an up-and-down start to the season. So I think those two would probably be the headliners, and you never know who might emerge to join them in the trade market.
Hey, I'm Vito Chirco, your host today on this lovely Saturday afternoon in northern Michigan. And my brother is alongside me today, Dominic Chirco. Dom, what's going on?
Nothing much, ready to talk about baseball.
We have a great segment planned for you today. It's called Going to War with Wins Above Replacement for Major League Baseball Players. And two notable ones today that Dominic wants to talk about are...
Well, I got two of them today, as Vito mentioned. Carlos Gomez for the Brewers and Xander Bogaerts for the Red Sox. Both of these guys have been huge for their respective teams. And first I'd like to talk about Carlos Gomez. You know about the success so far for the Brewers, especially the center fielder, Carlos Gomez.
Can do everything, right?
Everything, yep. And he's really expanded his power stroke.
Mm-hmm.
In Minnesota, he started off as a slap hitter, one of the
Couldn't really hit for anything.
No. But
all
he really,
glove at that time.
Really hitting for power now. And without him, that lineup is, especially the bottom of the order, it's futile. Considering
good work.
They need him in their lineup, and he's top 5 in the league in wins above replacement because of that. His defense, not only his defense as you mentioned, but his hitting. He hits for average. He gets on base, steals bases. He's a pest. He's not the piranha pest, slapping at the ball, but he's hitting for he's getting RBIs, hitting for extra base hits. He's doing all that for them. It's not just defense. And same goes for Xander Bogaerts this year. Hitting is a little bit down, but defensively, he's a must in the middle of the infield for the Red Sox. If they didn't have him, I don't know where they'd be.
And now playing third base too for the Bo Sox.
Base, yes.
Yeah.
With
Because
Steven
Middlebrooks
Drew
can't get
coming
it
back,
done.
Yep.
Yep.
And they need him just as much as the Brewers need Gomez, for the simple fact is defense. I mean, Steven Drew is not a guy you rely on with
Not a great
range,
bat.
Not
Either,
a good
really.
bat either.
Yeah.
And he's going to develop into, Bogarts is going to develop into he's going to hit for more power, he's going to hit for average probably the rest of his career. He reminds me of a young Hanley Ramirez. Use that power stroke over the Green Monster in left field. He'll get the job done for years to come, and not only this year. So it's been good so far. And the Red Sox,
It looks like they're moving in the right
they're moving in
direction
the
right now, too.
Yeah.
They had a 7-game winning streak. Talk about them going forward now this season
Yeah,
in that American League East.
The East
Very
is
competitive,
tough.
too, as usual, as you know.
The East is tough, definitely. The Yankees up top, always hard to beat.
Always
Now with
there, right?
Masahiro Tanaka, it's
The Rookie of the Year, or is
Rookie of the
it
Year.
Jose Abreu, your
Yeah,
boy
yeah,
of the White Sox, the
yeah.
south side of Chicago? Talk about him, man, too. Pretty darn good slugger, right?
Yeah, pitching, it's Tanaka. If you go on the pitching side, I think he's probably the Rookie of the Year right now. I mean, going on the 15-day disabled list for Abreu kind of sets
Him back a little bit,
Sets him
right?
back a little bit, yeah.
In terms of that.
But, you know, he's still going to hit for 30-plus home runs, close to 100 RBIs. But Tanaka's probably the Rookie of the Year right now. His pitching's just been superb right now. And they needed him because of really who else in the rotation?
Sabathia hurt, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Kuroda's old. Who do they have? Nova's out for the season.
David Phelps.
Not good enough, right, to get it
no,
done.
not good enough. And they got the other rookie now, too. What's his name? You know? Number four or five guy in the rotation.
A back end of the
rookie.
rotation,
Yeah,
arm,
back end
not
of
a
the
top.
rotation.
You know, the rotation guy like Tanaka is, and
Yeah.
he's that dominant ace go-to guy right now at the top.
And
So
Tanaka-
they need him
Tanaka
to keep it up, right?
Came out publicly saying that he was not the ace of the team. Well,
Well, they thought, yeah, he's going to be the number 3. Cashman said it
Yeah.
in the press conference, right,
Yeah.
regarding Tanaka, and look at him now.
yeah, and without him, I don't know where they'd be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like using that phrase a lot, but Tanaka's been huge for them.
Now, how about the Brew Crew? Ryan Braun, we talked about Carlos Gomez, what he can do in the outfield. Talk about them and their success now going forward. A great start to the season. Can they sustain it now in that tough NL Central, Dom? What's your opinion?
They're not going to be able to run away in that division. First of all, you got the Cardinals heating up.
Mm-hmm. Shelby Miller.
Shelby Miller.
Complete game today, right? Against the Blue Jays.
Blue
Beat
Jays.
Mark Burley, a 10-game winner this season for the
You
Jays.
got him heating up.
Mm-hmm.
Other guys in the rotation. The weakest link for the Brewers is the rotation.
But even that hasn't been that bad
It
this
hasn't
year,
been
right?
bad this year. But you
Carlos,
can't.
Garza.
I mean, who's your ace? I mean,
Gallardo,
you have to-
right?
Gallardo, I guess.
Has to be,
but
right?
It's tough to tell right now. It's too early in the season to make a judgment on who's going to win that division. But starting off hot certainly helped. But you know, Aramis Ramirez has always has an injury bug.
Injury prone. Yes, sir.
Ryan Braun seems like ever since he came back from the PED scandal, he's had the injury bug as well. So lineup-wise, with Gomez at the top, it's definitely a huge fall.
After him, you're saying.
him, yeah.
And Braun.
Yeah. If
So now,
healthy-
Gomez, where does he finish, you think, at the end of this season in terms of WAR, in terms of wins above replacement?
Oh, he's up
in
there.
the top 5, you think, by the end of the
He's
season?
definitely top 5, yeah. He is big. Not only defense, I mean, you have other guys, respectively, in their outfield. Logan Schaefer, Nuri Aoki last year. He's
Oh, he's gone.
him 1-2 punch in that lineup. It's just him now. Without him, I mean, combined wins above replacement, Aoki and Gomez was probably at close to 5. You would think 2 and 3 respectively last year. But now this year with just Gomez, he's huge. He's probably going to jump up in that category, closer to the 1 and 2 range.
National League MVP contender, though, in Gomez. True or false? Dominic Chirco. Putting you on the spot a little bit here, but what do you think regarding that? Gomez that good?
I don't think I'm going to say false.
Okay. At least for right now, you're
Right
saying,
now,
huh?
yes, because it depends where the Brewers are heading, and you can't really trust that pitching. I mean, last year.
And Gallardo wasn't that good last year. Now,
No.
this year he's turned it around, though.
Yeah, he's turned it around.
But is
this
that
year
surprising
so far.
to you how much he has turned it around compared
Yeah.
to last season?
Yeah, it's like someone telling you who would you rather. You know, big NL Central pundits and analysts talking about who would you rather have in that division to start your team, Joey Votto or him? And some people were saying Yvonne Gallardo. I mean, he's been up and down more than Joey Votto. Joey Votto's been the steadfast, consistent player.
Really has.
First baseman. So, I mean, who is the Brewers' face of their franchise?
Is it Braun still?
You would think, yeah, but after that scandal...
Gallardo.
Yeah.
I think it's number 2 at least,
Yeah.
not number 1 at this
Gallardo,
point, right?
yeah.
And then Gomez right there, I think right behind Gallardo. And with that, Dominic, thank you very much for participating in the first ever Going to War about wins above replacement in Major League Baseball. For Dominic Chirco, I am Vito Chirco signing off. Hijinks, hilarity, randomness, and much more. At least that's what I think. Without further ado, here is the first ever edition of the Random 5 with some word sneakage sprinkled in with the help of my friend and show producer Brett Karwowicz. And it's presented by the one and only American flag in the United States of America. Enjoy. Chirco here alongside my good pal and my show producer for today's segment, and Brett Karwowicz. Brett, what's going on, my man?
Not much, man. How are you doing?
Very good. Always
Thank
lovely to be around this guy.
I want to
The
thank
one and
you.
only Brett Karwowicz.
First of all, I want to thank you for having me with you
Well,
tonight.
I love having you. Your
Okay.
presence is always necessary here.
Thank you.
Always required.
Thank you.
All right? When I'm doing a segment like this, and today's segment is a word sneak segment, kind of a version, a rendition of it from Jimmy Fallon's late night show. A very good, funny segment on there. And now here's our version of it, and I will start off the conversation. We get these random words on these cards, produced by Dominic Chirco, my brother, and I will just start talking about something without saying the word necessarily. Not at least at the start of it, of the sentence. Later on, as I go along, progressively go along in the conversation, the word will be said at some point, but you will not hopefully know when it is said.
Okay.
All right?
All right. Sounds
Here
good.
we go, guys.
Okay.
I was in the bathroom last night and was washing my hands and everything. And then I was looking for, something to wipe my hands with. I saw a towel there, but the towel was kind of a weird color. Kind of had some stains on it, some remnants of something else, somebody else using it. Somebody with dirty hands, let me tell you that much.
Really?
I said, what else can I use in the bathroom, right? Not the shower curtain or the soap in there to wash, to wipe the hands off after I washed them. So I said, how about the toilet paper by the toilet? There wasn't a big roll there, but it was nice, nicely put on, where the roll is, put, obviously, okay? On the holder for it. So I went over there, I tried it out, it was all nice and white, soft cotton. I took a piece or two, used it, wiped my hands off of the water from washing my hands, and I felt delightful. I felt reinvigorated.
Just by putting it on your
I
hands?
felt enlightened and, like a new person.
Wow.
Just by feeling that, and I felt so good as I wiped it all around both of my hands.
So
it was
soft,
great.
right?
A great soft feeling.
Now,
Yeah.
Now I heard you had KFC last night for dinner too.
It was good. Fried chicken.
Now I
the
heard,
best, man.
Yeah. Now I heard that got to you. That got
A
to
little
your
bit.
stomach a little bit.
Yeah.
So
Give me the runs a little bit. It did.
Right.
Not gonna
right.
lie about that. Yeah.
So after you had that, how did that toilet paper feel on your behind?
Nice and soft and comfy.
Yeah.
Just perfect, really. Perfect. Just like so many singers out there nowadays. I mean, when you go on, the radio, 95.5, 96.3, 98.7 amp radio in Detroit, throughout the Metro Detroit area. And so many great musicians nowadays, right? Pop stars, punk rock stars, usually the pop and rap stars on those kind of stations. And then the king of pop currently is not Michael Jackson, MJ anymore. Obviously, he's passed away, great for in the years past as the king of pop, right? Back when he was on top and living, among us earthly beings that live on this planet Earth, right?
Right.
But guys now that really rock it, like Justin Timberlake, all these guys, Jennifer Lopez, Sierra even, really a blast from the past right there,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Kesha nowadays, Bruno Mars, all those superstar pop stars, superstar pop stars, pop
Superstar
artists.
pop stars, okay.
They're great to have, for the car ride home,
Yeah.
to listen to those guys,
Yeah.
and especially when they're kind of sexy too. Have a groove to them, can dance, get their groove thing on, shake their, groove thing,
Groove thing.
shake their behind,
Behind,
and
yeah.
show it off a little bit and get down with their bad selves.
Yeah.
It's enlightening, once again. Spiritually uplifting when I see that happen, when I listen to the music, and then it makes me feel that way as well, just like they are when recording those hit songs.
Right.
Right?
Right. Now, we're sitting out here.
Beautiful day outside. By
We
the
should
way.
have.
Lovely.
We should have
Out
some
here.
of this music playing right now.
To get us going, like dancing, right?
And look at
like
this. You
JT's.
got a bonfire pit going over there.
Yeah, like bringing sexy back, like JT or something.
Now who's that guy?
And we could bring the sexy out too.
Is it Smokey the Bear? Wasn't he the one who said
Putting
something
out
about fires?
Putting out fires. I want to put out your
fires?
fire, right? Would you put out my fire too? We could put out each other's fires. I would love to put out JT's fire, by the way. Justin Timberlake,
JT's.
the current king of pop.
Yeah.
Forget about MJ. He's the man right now.
And we could
can
have-
dance, shakes his groove thing, baby, for the ladies.
Yeah.
Bringing sexy back at an all-time high.
We need to get that music out here right now.
Right? Let's bring
After
it.
this, you know what?
Let's lift
that's
it
what
up,
we got.
man. Yeah.
Don can cue that up for us
Yeah.
after this. So.
Let's blast it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. Definitely.
Great.
Wow.
Wow.
Wow. And then also,
Yeah.
I mean, when you're jamming out and your butt is kind of, maybe sore in the back, you want to, lessen the stress on it, to kind of open it up a
Yeah, I
little
hear
bit,
you. Yeah, I feel you.
Well, you maybe have to get something out or something. So
Okay,
to
yeah.
ease the pressure, ease the strain on your body, on your behind specifically,
Why we-
you got to get some, conditioner, some substances, out in the open. Apply some substances from maybe a can of lube or something of that sort. So you use it, you apply it on yourself.
You talking
get
about your
going
behind?
For your behind. Not for the front. Maybe you use it for the front as well when you're not putting out fires in the front.
Oh.
Okay, of
with
your
Smokey the Bear.
bodily,
Yeah.
bodily devices. Okay,
But
but forget about that for right now. It's about the behind, and what do you want to use for that? I mean, I think a substance such as lube to really relax it,
right.
right?
Yeah.
To put it in a good setting.
But I want to talk about the front. Let's talk about bananas, so to speak.
Okay, yellow
What do
bananas with the banana peels,
Yeah.
like what the monkeys, the apes, gorillas eat, right?
Right.
They eat bananas, correct?
They do. They do.
Yellow bananas?
As far as I know, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. But I want to talk about. I mean, can you enlighten me a little more? I guess we'll just say, so to speak, bananas. What do we do about that? Since we know what to do with the behind.
They're long and yellow.
Right. But
They can help
lube-
you put out a forest fire once in a while. The lube can be applied to the bananas, the banana peels,
Yeah, yeah.
to allow yourself to easily remove the peel from the banana. That's the advantage with using that resource of the lube.
Right.
It's for the banana peels to peel it off more easily, quicker, more smoothly, all of that good stuff, so you enjoy your banana that much more too, Brett, at the end of the day, my man. Simple as
Okay.
that, dude.
All right. We'll look for that coming out soon, right?
Right?
Of course, yeah.
That kind of a substance for
Yeah.
bananas
Yeah.
themselves. We should
You know what?
patent that.
I
We
like
should create
that.
it and patent it.
Yeah.
What do you say, you and I?
Let's do it.
Let's get in on that. Why not? Create it, make big bucks,
We'd
right?
be huge.
Yeah.
It would be huge.
Oh yeah. Huge, and that was your huge first segment of the Random 5 with some word sneakage involved there. More of that than the Random 5 today. Between Brett Karwowicz, my show producer, and I. Enjoy the rest of your day and the week.
And thank you for
Goodbye.
having me.
Adios. Thank you.
All right.
Did you learn something today, America? Maybe so, maybe not. Anyways, thanks to all of you for watching today's edition, the first ever edition of the Vito Chirco Variety Hour. And thanks to all my guests for their great insight and anecdotes on today's segment as well, especially to Mr. Ted Lindsay and to Mr. Ben Nicholson-Smith, and not to forget to mention my show producer, the one and only Brett Karwowicz. Until next time, I'm Vito Chirco signing off. Have a great one, and God bless America.
My hitters, yeah. First thing first, I love all my hitters. This rap, cracking, I involve my hitters. You looking for some lane, let me call my